The Justice Department says a subpoena for the full unredacted version of the Mueller report is, quote, premature and unnecessary. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler issued a subpoena early Friday demanding the full version of Mueller's report and any underlying evidence. Attorney General William Barr is set to appear on Capitol Hill in a matter of weeks, with special counsel Robert Mueller requested to appear soon after. CBS News' Nicole Killian reports.
Less than 24 hours after the release of a redacted version of the Mueller report, House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler issued a subpoena for the entire thing.
We need the whole report, including the underlying documents, unredacted.
While the 448-page report did not find evidence of coordination or conspiracy between Russia and the Trump campaign in 2016, the special counsel was less clear on the issue of obstruction, leaving the question to Congress.
Indeed, he found numerous instances where the president took steps to try to derail or shut down the investigation.
A select group of lawmakers is being allowed to view a less redacted version of the report starting next week. But Chairman Nadler says that's pointless and demands the Justice Department turn over all materials by the time the Attorney General testifies next month.
Kicking off the holiday weekend at his Florida golf club, President Trump called the Mueller report crazy and said some of the statements about him are total BS.
There was no collusion. There was no obstruction.
Press Secretary Sarah Sanders also disputed allegations that she misled the media when she said countless members of the FBI had lost confidence in fired FBI Director James Comey.
Look, I've acknowledged that the word countless was a slip of the tongue.
Republicans say the time to move on has arrived, but Nadler insists the report exposes a culture of lying at the White House and is calling on special counsel Robert Mueller to testify. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
All right, let's bring in Joel Payne and Matt Gorman. Joel is a Democratic strategist, former Hillary for America senior aide, and a vice president at MWWPR. And Matt is a Republican strategist and former communications director for the National Republican Congressional Committee. Good to have you both with us. I'm going to start with you, Joel. How much political capital do you think Democrats should spend on getting the unredacted version of the report?
I think Democrats have done a good job here of balancing their oversight duty with what the American people actually care about. Look, we know that the Mueller report has been hard to get in front of, the general public. We know that people don't really understand all the complexities here. And I think what Democrats have to do is let the investigators investigate. Let the people like Jerry Nadler, let the people like Adam Schiff do their job, and let Nancy Pelosi and the leadership talk about health care, talk about education, talk about all those issues that made Democrats so successful 5 months ago. Those are the issues that Democrats ultimately are going to win on. Anyone who already believed Donald Trump was crooked did not change their opinion this week. And anyone who thought Donald Trump was an angel did not change their opinion this week. So I think Democrats have to be smart about allowing everybody to do their job.
Matt, the president Friday morning tweeted that some of the statements in the report are BS. He used the real word. Is the White House now in a defensive stance, do you think?
Well, I think they need to decide how they're going to go about this. And I think a lot of it's going to be determined by what the Democratic Congress does. I mean, if we talk about Adam Schiff investigating this, he's already proven he has absolutely zero credibility. For years, he stated there was evidence of collusion. There was going to be bombshells in this report. He has egg on his face. At very best, he was misinformed. At worst, he was just plain lying. And I think Democrats had a very determined decision to make. Joel talks about Nancy Pelosi and others talking about health care and other issues, but that has gotten totally drowned out by their investigation, and they're adding to the dysfunction in Washington by the countless investigations of this. As we said, Pelosi and Hoyer said we don't need to move forward with impeachment proceedings. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, yes, we do. Elizabeth Warren says, yes, we do. And now all of a sudden we're in this debate about whether or not the House should move forward with impeachment. So it's gotten totally overshadowed their agenda. So if I were the White House, I would let them overreach, just like they have so far, and keep talking about the choice in 2020 and make it into a choice.
And to that point, Joel, do you think Democrats are at risk of developing tunnel vision by focusing too much on the Mueller report and not other issues that have helped build their base of support in recent months?
You know, I think Democrats have an interesting task here because look, there's a conflict of the head and the heart here. The head, right, the brain of the Democratic Party says we know what helped us win. We know what voters want to hear. The heart, the soul of the party wants to go after President Trump. They think that he has been incredibly unfair to Secretary Clinton following her defeat 2 years ago. They think he has not been magnanimous. They think that he has ripped apart the fabric of our country. And so there's a real sense within the kind of heart and soul of the Democratic Party that they want to go after this guy. I think we have to resolve that conflict. We have to stay focused. If there's something, I think Nancy Pelosi laid it out perfectly. If there is something obvious, if there's something clear, yes, follow your oversight duty. Beyond that, I don't think voters want to hear anything more about the Russia report than they have to.
Matt, Senator Lindsey Graham said Thursday that he's not interested in hearing from Robert Mueller. Do you think that that's a smart talking point for Republicans?
Look, I think Republicans need to be as transparent as they possibly can. I know almost every single one of them in Congress voted to make the Mueller report public. They also can't be seen as trying to bury this report. Look, if there's nothing to hide, let them, let Robert Mueller and Bill Barr come to the Hill and talk about it. And look, I think we have two very good examples of that head and the heart debate. In 2018, Democrats went with their heads, talked about health care and other issues. And look, I know better than anybody that they were successful. In 98, Republicans went with their heart, and with the impeachment proceedings running on that against President Clinton, and their results came up very short. So as Joel mentioned, there are some certain examples of both of those in recent history.
In a tweet on Friday, Massachusetts Senator and Democratic presidential hopeful Elizabeth Warren called on Congress to begin impeachment proceedings against the president. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's spokeswoman issued a statement in response to that said in part, quote, "As the Speaker has said repeatedly, one step at a time. We're focused on getting the full, unredacted version of the report and its underlying documents, as well as hearing from Mueller." Joel, do you think Democrats should avoid bringing up impeachment at all?
So this is really interesting because, usually around this point in the cycle, particularly the party that is vying for the presidency that's out of power, their candidates start to become the de facto spokespersons of the party. So the Elizabeth Warrens of the world, the Beto O'Rourke's, the Pete Buttigieg's, the Joe Bidens, they tend to become the mouthpiece of the party. I don't know if that transition has happened yet. I think still most Democrats feel like Nancy Pelosi is the leader of the Democratic Party, and I think most Democrats are going to take their marching orders from Nancy Pelosi. So while I think that Warren certainly is making a smart political bet here, being the first person out on the left flank to capture that anti-Trump impeachment pro sentiment, I think it'll be interesting to see whether the rest of the candidates follow suit. Nancy Pelosi has really established herself as a force within the last 6 months and of course, over her career over the last decade plus in leadership. And I'm not sure if she has ceded that leadership position. Both, obviously there's the formal leadership, but then there's also the informal leadership of the party, which she is the most senior member of right now. I'm not sure that transition's happened yet.
Matt, the Trump campaign said it raised more than $1 million following the release of the report. We've heard the president say on Twitter and in person that the Mueller report proves there was, quote, no collusion, no obstruction. How much is this all uniting his base, and what is it doing?
It absolutely unites his base, just like it unites the Democratic base, and I'm sure they're going to even raise more with Warren's call for impeachment tonight. And let's just say that this isn't about impeachment for Elizabeth Warren. Desperation, my name is impeachment. She's finding herself not raising a lot of money, not getting a lot of traction. This is about breaking through and getting attention. And quite frankly, she doesn't care what Nancy Pelosi thinks. She's trying to win her race, just like all the other candidates running don't really care what Nancy Pelosi thinks. So, look, this is going to galvanize the left. It already has. It's going to galvanize the right already. So the more they talk about impeachment, I dare them run on it because it only will galvanize Trump supporters even more. And what we saw in 2018 was one of the few really great pieces we had in our polling was that if Democrats were elected in the House, they'd bring more dysfunction and more obstruction. So the more they talk impeachment, the more that helps Republicans among swing voters. It might not win the election, might not be the biggest thing, but it's a factor that helps us.
Joel, do you think the contents of the report change anything for 2020 Democrats?
I don't think that anything that we saw over the last week fundamentally changes anything other than what we've seen from like Elizabeth Warren, right? There are going to be a couple of candidates that decide this is my opportunity to stand out. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a couple of the other more liberal, people in the 2020 field decide to stake out a position there. We even saw that Tom Steyer was going to run an entire campaign based around impeachment. So there's certainly an appetite there in the base. But I don't know if the atmospherics of the race 100% change. I think this is still a race about who Democrats think can beat Donald Trump and who is going to tap into that sentiment in the middle of the country that a lot of Democrats felt like was missed in 2016.
As we wrap up this conversation, I'll end with the same question for both of you. As you look at the 2020 field this week, who's having a big week and who is having a bad week? Matt, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Best week goes to Pete Buttigieg. He's raising a lot of money, getting a lot of buzz. He had a great comeback against some bigot who was going against his homosexuality on the stump. It's ridiculous. But what he needs to be doing now is raising money and building an organization that could last for the long haul after the media goes on to the next flavor of the month. The worst week went to Beto O'Rourke. Beto had a terrible week. He had a terrible answer about charity. He managed to seem absent father, ungenerous, and arrogant all at the same time, which is quite a feat. He needs to pick it up. And
Joel, what about you?
So, I think actually Matt and I have the same choices. Pete Buttigieg having a big weekend, Beto O'Rourke having a bad weekend. I couldn't hear anything Matt was saying, so I apologize for being redundant. But what I would say about Buttigieg here is that he has established himself now as a part of the top tier. I think it's time for us to acknowledge the fact that Pete Buttigieg now is a real contender for the Democratic nomination. He has demonstrated himself to be the type of political athlete that really we've rarely seen over the last half century. We're talking Barack Obama. We're talking, Jimmy Carter early in his run. We're talking Bill Clinton. We're talking Ronald Reagan. Pete Buttigieg has that it factor. And the reason why I say it's a bad week for Beto O'Rourke is because with Joe Biden now entering the race, which we've seen reporting over the last 24 hours that his entrance to the race is imminent, that cuts right into the part of the electorate that I think Beto O'Rourke was going to feed into. And also, I think Beto struggles with all of the Buttigieg attention. I think that that's taken some shine away from Beto after a pretty strong start.
All right, Joel Payne and Matt Gorman, good to see you both, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.